There's always one dominant question every preseason. This year, it seems obvious that, people want to hear about John Lovett, the 2016 Ivy Player of the Year. Returns for this season, obviously missed all of last year, but certainly has to have a different role. I don't know how much different, and maybe you have to figure that out during the year, but what have you seen so far, and what have you talked to him about maybe dialing a little bit back from what he did in 2016 because of this new role?
Yeah, no, John has been tremendous in every way. He's a leader. His effort, his energy at practice, his ability to take, the offensive unit and even the team and just get them to respond in the right way every day at practice, meetings, and hold guys accountable. When you got leaders like that, it makes your job as the head coach a lot easier because you can focus on other things. And, he's really, with some of the things, the way the Ivy League, we do the fifth years, he got to run the offense the spring before he got injured last summer. And so we saw his maturity, we saw him developing all the things you need to be a high-level quarterback, and he's just even better than that. He's throwing the ball well, he's making decisions better, and he's just showing such a better grasp of playing that position. And you feel a lot better when the ball's in his hands every play and most of the plays and all that, and he's doing a great job with that.
One of the things that was so kind of charming about watching John play was that he's not going to run out of bounds. He's going to turn his shoulders upfield and try to take two linebackers with him. There's when Chad Kanoff is the one throwing the ball most of the time, you can kind of live with decisions like that. But he's now the guy that's running the offense, completely. I mean, you do the 2 or 3 quarterback stuff and we'll see what happens. But still, this is John's offense now. But you also don't want to change who he is as a player. So how do you navigate that?
There's a time and place. When John Elway is Superman and spiraling through the air for a touchdown on a key play in the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter, there's a time and place. A 1st and 10 at midfield in the first series of the game, we want him to make a better decision with that. And you don't want to rein him in completely because he is going to do things out of pocket. He is going to have opportunities to carry the ball as a runner. But in the open field, there'll be a time and place where he has to make good decisions. And, we've covered that. We've talked about that at length. And for him to truly be the quarterback he can become, he's going to have to make those decisions correctly.
He also has a plethora of weapons offensively. When you look at Jesper Horsted and Steve Carlson and Charlie Volker, Graham Adamitis, Colin Eady, he really can go kind of down the list. The one area, though, that you have the inexperience in is on the offensive line now. Maybe your best lineman that you've coached here in Mitch Swigert, a couple all-time All-Ivy guy in Eric Ramirez, Richard Bush. How have you seen kind of the building of chemistry in that group, and where are they right now?
Yeah, it'll be great to see them game day against a really good defensive line. I love how they started this off season, how they performed during spring ball, how they worked in the summer. Every single one of those guys came back in great shape. And then how they've done during training camp. When the game's going full speed and you're facing an outstanding front, that's when we're going to be tested. And to see Holder, to see Guest, to see Dieters, to see Nico Ivanisevic, to see Stefan Ivanisevic, guys who've had roles here but not been in the starting or 60, 70 play role, to see how they do. That's going to be a great test for us.
52 weeks at this time, we're talking about a defensive backfield that is either freshmen who are jumping into these cornerback spots or new starters who are making a big jump in snaps on game day. That changes now this year because you basically are returning, by the end of the season, all 4 starters, plus the Trevor Forbes who can play the nickel and safety positions. How much more comfortable are you in that area, and what kind of tests do they face this week when they have somebody like a Pace Temple who already has 17 catches through 2 weeks for a pretty good Butler offense.
Yeah, no, it's the communication has been awesome back there. And last year, where they were all new, the communication was almost silent at times. And that was a point of emphasis in the offseason. It was a point of emphasis in spring ball. And they've really done a great job getting the proper communication. And, you know, just like I said, their defense is going to be a test. This offense and the design of the offense, the execution of the offense, their quarterback has played unbelievably well. And Pace Temple's one of the best receivers, if not maybe the best we'll see all year. He clearly dominated the Youngstown State game. And then they go play Taylor, and Taylor literally put two guys, one guy to pretty much mug him at the line, and then once he got by that guy, they had another guy waiting for him. And to their credit, and the offense adjusted, they ran the ball more effectively, they got the ball to other guys, and you know, they really put you in a bind because he's such a good receiver that our DBs, our corners, when we're in a single situation, they're going to have their hands full, and they got to step up to the challenge if we're going to be successful. And when we do plan to double him, we got to do a great job with the other guys because their quarterback is not making bad decisions. He's throwing the ball accurately. He's completing almost 67% of his passes, and they can run the ball. They have some explosive runs, but their offensive line comes off the ball, knocks teams off the ball, and they get a lot of 4, 5, 6 yard gains in addition to the big plays.
You know, you mentioned that Youngstown State win. I mean, that might be one of the 5 best FCS wins of the early season for them to come back and win that game. And you look at their statistically, besides Pace Temple, like especially on defense, it's not like one stat necessarily jumps out at you as, okay, they have this many sacks or this many interceptions. This is why they're winning games. It just looks like they're doing everything well and they're finding ways to get off the field. Is it just a very kind of solid, mistake-free defense?
Yeah. It's a combination of they are incredibly well coached and they know what they want to do and how they're attacking teams on really all 3 sides of the football. They got experience. When you look at their roster, the number of 5th-year seniors and 4th-year juniors that are in the 2 deep is probably more than anybody will play all year. And then they got tough, talented football players. And they execute the scheme extremely well. They hustle. They are a physical team. They don't make error on the back end. It's a really big test. And, you know, I think that, you know, people aren't familiar with Butler. We've never played them before. So I think maybe over the summer at our golf outing, things like that, there might have been a little more lackadaisical attitude with some of the people who did not know Butler. And then they go out, and it wasn't a fluke that they beat Youngstown. They beat Youngstown and really, you know, had their way with the majority of that game. You know, that woke people who didn't know them, woke them up. The coaches who've been watching and studying them from previous years, you know, we knew that we were going to be in for this test, and that's been passed on to our players and an experienced group that knows that we only get 10 games. We're not going to take anybody lightly, especially a team that's likely to be in the playoffs.